Tina settled deeper into her seat while looking out the window. They were off the college campus now and moving onto the highway. Lisa and her husband Nathan had just dropped their youngest child, Samantha, at her new school. In just 2 weeks' time, they had gone from having a full house to being empty nesters. It was a bittersweet feeling, but also exciting at the same time. Nathan and Tina met in their first year of college, and Lisa had fallen desperately in love with him. They had been inseparable for the next 2 years and married just before their senior year. Nathan was in a 5-year program to receive his MBA, so Tina found a position teaching at a small private school while Nathan finished his final year. Once he graduated, they moved to Nathan's hometown where Mike joined his father's small company as a production manager. Nathan's first paycheck came not a moment too soon. Their son Joshua was born 6 weeks after Mike started his new job. The young couple was ecstatic with their son and formed the picture of the happy young family. 2 years later they were joined by Samantha. Everything was perfect. Tina stayed at home until Samantha started school. Then she returned to the classroom, taking a position as a 3rd-grade teacher in the same district that her children attended. Lisa loved working with children, and it helped fill her days while the kids were away in their own schools. Her father-in-law owned a small fabrication shop when Nathan graduated. The elder was an incredible engineer whose shop produced high-quality specialty parts for a number of industries, including for building applications. Their niche was low volume, high quality at a good cost point per unit. Low volume meant the per unit cost was higher, but by manufacturing routinely beat out their competition on the quality even at a higher price point. Nathan and his father formed a great team. Where Mark was a great engineer, he was not a skilled businessman. Nathan knew enough engineering to speak intelligently, but he didn't inherit his father's gift and passion. However, Nathan was a great business mind. Nathan handled sales, negotiations, and supply chain, leaving his father free to design and invent. Nathan was able to reduce their prices while Mark kept up the quality. Together they built by manufacturing into the powerhouse in their niche. 6 years ago, tragedy struck when Mark had a massive stroke and died at his desk. He was only 55, but was also overweight and smoked. He would loudly proclaim that eating and smoking helped him concentrate on his designs. It might have been true, but it also probably cost him his life. Nathan took over full control of the business and hired 3 young engineers to fill Mark's role. 2 of these engineers were competent workers. The third, Peter Musa, showed the same creative spark Mark had. After 2 years, Peter was named Director of Engineering and formed almost the same partnership Nathan had with his dad. The biggest difference was Mark and Nathan were family, so shared ownership responsibilities. Now with Mark gone, Nathan assumed total ownership. This caused longer hours and more travel than ever before. Tina looked over at her husband. At just 40, Nathan still looked good. He'd learned from his father's example. His dark hair was just touched with grey, and he kept himself in shape. Never a runner, Nathan preferred water sports such as whitewater rafting and scuba diving to keep active. Tina was never that into getting wet, but was happy to lie out on the dive boat while Nathan and their 2 kids did their dives. Not that Tina let herself go. Long hours at the gym doing Pilates, Zumba, and yoga kept her in great shape. Tina's 5 feet 5 inches trim figure, beak-up breasts, and taunters turned heads wherever she went. A 3rd-grade teacher, Lisa was popular with the fathers on back-to-school nights. Having the kids off to college at once was a surprise. Josh graduated 3rd in his high school class and was accepted into the same engineering school his grandfather attended. The school focused on the practical and forced students to take 3 6-month co-ops during their 5-year program. Josh would finish the 5 years with his MS in nuclear engineering if he stayed on task. Yes, where his grandfather focused on practical mechanical engineering, Josh wanted something a bit flashier. But Josh wasn't the surprise. That was Samantha. Sam graduated a full 2 years early and pushed her older brother out of the second place of their graduating class. Josh simply laughed and was proud of his baby sister. Sam had worked incredibly hard the last 3 years to graduate early, and he said she deserved it. Josh did tease her a bit about missing the valedictorian slot due to a B+ in an art class. Now Sam was starting a pre-med and molecular biology program at the university. Tina was happy for her daughter, but saddened that she would miss seeing her daughter have the traditional high school experience. Tina was a bit biased, but was certain her daughter at 18 would be a sure winner for prom queen. They had grown apart a bit the last few years, and a part of Lisa wished to have those 2 years to re-establish her relationship with Sam. Tina turned without a word to look back out the window. Things would be so different now. The next few weeks would be rough for everyone, but it had to be done. Any regrets? Nathan asked. Tina sighed. A few. But I'll live with them. It's time for a new chapter in our lives. Nathan laughed. You make it sound like we are dying. Hell, with instant messaging and Skype it will be almost like the kids have never left. That's true, Tina agreed. During the next 4 hours of their drive, Tina and Nathan engaged casual conversations of a long-married couple, neighborhood gossip, things around the house, and other mundane things. Today was a Thursday and Nathan had taken Friday off to do some things around the house, so Tina was loading up the honey-do list. Finally, they arrived home and Nathan pulled the minivan into its slot in the garage. Normally the 3-car garage housed the 2-year-old minivan, Nathan's Camry, and the 2013 Corvette Nathan bought himself. The Vette was a bone of contention for Tina. Nathan had simply shown up with it one night 2 years ago without a word to her. Nathan said it was a gift for the company signing their largest contract to date on a large contractor on a Kumul contract. Technically it was owned by the company, so Tina had limited room to complain. The kids had loved it immediately. Once the van was parked, Tina pulled her slightly sore body out of the van. 8 hours in the car today, lugging all of Sam's stuff into her dorm, and the rough sex the night before had Tina dying for a hot shower and bed. I need to run out for milk, Nathan said even as he climbed out of the van also. Tina groaned. Why didn't you stop on our way in? Their house was 10 minutes out of town, and they had passed 2 stores after they left the highway. You looked like you needed to get home, and I don't mind. Tina felt a small bubble of gratitude at Nathan's consideration. He was such a good man at times. I'm taking the Vette. It's a gorgeous night and a hell of a lot more fun to drive than that minivan. Tina waved that off. Before Tina was even in the house, Nathan was in the car and pulling out of the garage. With a roar of the V8, he was gone. Tina walked up to her room and undressed for her shower. She felt like she was missing something. Nathan was such a great guy. In many ways, he was the perfect husband and father. But soon he would be gone and Tina would be on her way to her new life. 3 years ago, Nathan's constant travel was getting to her. The company was doing great, the kids were great, but Tina felt alone. Intellectually, Tina knew it wasn't Nathan's fault after losing his dad, but emotionally, Tina was feeling abandoned. One night when Nathan was away and the kids were off with their friends, Tina went to a restaurant with some fellow teachers. They had fun and a few bottles of wine to support that fun. On a whim they carried on to the club next door. She'd been dancing with Bob Werner, a fellow teacher, when someone cut in. It was Peter Musa, the engineer from Nathan's company. Peter was a wonderful dancer and Tina had a great time. When the other teachers left, Tina stayed to dance some more. When the night came to end, Peter called her a cab to get her home. She gave him a warm hug and a peck on the cheek before climbing into the cab. A week later, Nathan was again off on a trip and Peter sent her a text inviting her out to another night of dancing. Tina was thrilled and had another great night. She met several of Peter's friends and they welcomed her to their group. Tina felt more alive than since she and Nathan were first married. Tina knew it was harmless fun and innocent, but never mentioned it to Nathan. It felt a bit naughty, and she saw it as her own little revenge for leaving her alone so often. The dancing became a regular event when Nathan was on travel. Josh, their son, was involved in hockey, so was usually out for practices until 11 p.m. because they didn't get ice time until 9. He would go home after school, eat dinner, and be gone before Tina was due home from school. So he never noticed Tina's absences. Samantha, their daughter, was trickier. She wasn't into sports, so Tina signed her up for a series of enrichment classes at the local community college. The classes were on different nights, so Tina's nights out had no pattern. Plus, she never went on weeks when Nathan was home. Peter was a blessing and became her best friend and confidant. He would sit at dinner before their dancing and listen to her talk about how Nathan left her alone. She did admit with a shy smile how now, with the dancing, she looked forward to his absences. Peter was her rock. Hesitantly at first, Peter started to confess how he felt misused by Nathan also. Peter opened up how Nathan ignored good engineering to squeeze more profit out of the business, how Nathan sold ideas Peter developed to their customers for huge money and never shared the proceeds with Peter. Tina was furious on behalf of her new best friend and wanted to confront Nathan right away. Peter calmed her down, saying that legally Nathan had him bound by a contract he'd signed when he first joined the company. The company owned the intellectual property rights to anything the employees developed, so nothing forced Nathan to share the wealth. Angry at her husband's abandonment of her and abuse of her friend, Tina leaned over and hugged Peter. The hug turned into a passionate kiss. They quickly left the restaurant and went straight to Peter's townhouse. They never made it to dancing that night. Tina refused to call it an affair. She was in love with her true soulmate. The sex was wild and fun. Peter was the man she was meant to be with. The 36-year-old mother of 2 and schoolteacher wanted to divorce her husband and move on to a new life with her true love, her husband's 29-year-old employee. They still went dancing once a week, but any other time Lisa got that the kids and Nathan were out of the house, she was often in Tony's bed. 2 things stopped her from going forward with her divorce though. The first were her kids. She'd seen enough of her students go through divorces that she didn't want them to grow up in 2 homes. Nathan was a great father when he was home, and she had enough residual feeling for him to want him to still be with his kids, but she wouldn't give them up either. The second was a suggestion from Peter. Nathan had just promoted Peter to Director of Engineering with a much larger paycheck and a great annual performance bonus. Peter wanted to wait a while so he could establish himself in the position and with the customers. Peter said that Tina could get the company as part of the divorce and they would run it together the way it was supposed to be run. Peter claimed the engineering and production staff would support Peter over Nathan, who was seen as an absentee boss. Together the lovers developed their plan for their own future and support. They would wait for Samantha to graduate before starting to activate their plan. In the meantime, Peter would develop his support among the employees so they were ready when the time came. Tina stepped dripping naked from her shower. Her muscles felt relaxed for the first time all day. She and Peter had celebrated Sam's leaving for school the night before and her lover wore her out. He slammed her so hard in all her holes that sitting in the minivan all day was hard. Sam's early graduation allowed them to move up their plan a full 2 years, and Peter was really excited. The hot water and lotions had done wonders, and now she was ready to crawl into bed. Hopefully Nathan didn't want to celebrate with her tonight. Wrapping a large, fuzzy towel around her body, Tina walked into the large walk-in closet she shared with Nathan. She grabbed her robe and turned to walk out, but then suddenly froze. She turned to look back in the closet. All of Nathan's things were gone. Tina ran over to Nathan's dresser and saw the top had been cleaned off. Yanking the drawers open, they were empty too. All of Nathan's personal things were missing from the bathroom too. Tina ran down the stairs and saw nothing amiss in the kitchen. It was in the family room. She noticed that some of the family photos were missing from the wall, and Nathan's movie collection was gone too. Her panic was complete when she reached Nathan's home office, and it was completely cleaned out. She sank to the floor as the enormity of the situation hit her. Nathan had left her. He waited until Sam was off to school and he'd left her. The sudden fear shot through her that Nathan knew about Peter and their plans. Tina ran back up the stairs to grab her cell phone. She had to call Peter. Running into her room, Tina spotted an envelope sitting on a DVD in the middle of her bed. With trembling hands, Tina picked up the envelope and saw her name written in Nathan's hand on front. She opened it and read, "Lisa, I've loved you since we first met. You were the only one I wanted to spend my life with. It has been my greatest failing that this will never be true. I couldn't avoid my travel and keep the business. You never said you had a problem. Instead, you ran to the arms of that conniving weasel Peter. I was shocked when I found out you were fucking that snake in the grass. If there was ever some Eddie Haskell wannabe, it is Peter. Peter kissed my ass in the office and then stabbed me in the back when I was gone. I found out too late, after I promoted the rat, what he was really like. He turned my staff against me just like he turned my wife into his personal slut. A misquote here and an insinuation there, and he had the engineering staff ready quit en masse. I was an idiot and knew nothing about your affair until it had already been going for a year. When I read my investigator's report, I knew it was too late to save our marriage. There was no road back from this betrayal. The only thing I agreed with you was waiting for Sam to graduate. Don't worry about telling the kids. They already know. In fact, Sam is the one that told me. Our 14-year-old daughter had to tell her father that her mother was a cheating slut. Remember the sudden dive trip where I took Sam to the Keys? She had come home and heard a rather graphic conversation you were having with your fuck buddy. She collapsed to the floor and you completely missed her when you left to meet that asshole. Sam called me to come home to her. It took me the whole 4-day weekend to get her to hold it together. Of course, I later found out you spent almost that whole time in Peter's bed whining about me abandoning you. I've had her in counseling ever since we returned from that trip. You know Sam's drive to graduate early. When I decided to stay with you until she graduated, Sam decided to work to graduate early. I almost ended it right there and go for the divorce, but Sam demanded that she could do it. I was so proud and heartbroken by her decision. We didn't tell Josh until after his graduation. He's been seeing Sam's counselor ever since. He was shocked that his mother would ever do such a thing. I had to show him the edited version, my evidence, to get him to believe Sam and me. I got him to realize you still loved him and his sister and stayed for them. I think that may be the only thing that saves your relationship with him. Good luck with Sam though. As to you and Loveboy's plan to steal my company, you never realized the company was owned by a family trust. With Dad's passing, the shareholders are his descendants. That would be our 2 kids and me. It would never be considered part of our common property in a divorce. Only the salary I drew, my pension, and the house fall into that category. That's why I had the trust by my vet. I can't sell off the trust, but I can with the board of trustees divest the trust of the company. The trustees consist of Josh, Sam and I. When the employees of By Manufacturing arrive in the office on Monday, they will be in for a hell of a shock. I'd tell you, but why spoil the surprise? I found the letter you planned to have delivered to me when you had me served. As the song said, I guess you felt you had to set things right. Well, I've got some news for you and you'll soon find out it's true. And you'll have to eat your lunch all by yourself, but I am already gone. If only you had talked to me. For the last time, love, Nathan. P.S. The DVD contains some of your greatest hits. Be sure to watch the videos in the folder called Peter Uncovered. Tina collapsed onto her bed with the thoughts of her children knowing just what their mother had been doing and planning to do to their father. Oh God, she cried out. I've lost them all. When the employees of By Manufacturing arrived in the office, they were greeted with an email announcing the sale of the company to a much larger company looking to take over their niche. Nathan never appeared at the office. Instead, it was the new owners and Nathan's corporate lawyer that appeared. The long-term production and support teams found their pensions were guaranteed with at least 5 more years of employment, or a buyout equal to any remaining time. The engineers that fell in with Peter got no such guarantee. They turned on Peter, as his promises of a lucrative future turned to ash. Peter tried to call Tina to find out what happened, but found his calls going straight to voicemail. He knew Nathan was home all weekend, so he'd never expected a chance to talk with Tina. Now she was avoiding his calls. Peter finally decided to drive over in a fit of desperation to try to salvage his plans. He pulled into Tina's driveway and looked for any sign of Nathan. A glance in the garage told him the Corvette was gone. That meant Nathan was out too. Ringing the doorbell brought no answer, so he just walked in. Tina, he called out. There was no answer. He called out several times as he searched the house. He finally found Tina sitting on her bed watching a video on the flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. Tina, he asked, seemingly ignoring him. Tina reached out a hand with the remote and pressed play. The TV sprang to life and Peter was shocked to hear his own voice coming from the screen. Well, the bitch is hot, the on-screen Peter was saying. Peter recognized it was his own entertainment room and several of his friends. I don't think I could have done it if she wasn't. A little TLC, and she was on my cock in an instant. I'm going to take that asshole's company away by screwing his old lady into giving it to me. Hell, I'll wait a few years and bang his daughter too. She's hot as shit, but I can't do jailbait. That was met by rough laughter and vulgar suggestions shouted by his friends. Peter recognized when the video was recorded. It was 8 months ago. The same day it was announced that the 16-year-old referred to would be allowed to graduate that year. Peter was so excited to have his plans move forward by 2 whole years. Tina paused the video. Get out, she said in a dead voice. You've cost me everything and Nathan has destroyed us both. Tina, Get out. If Nathan hadn't taken his .40 SIG sour with him, I'd have shot you as you came in the door, and then one for me. Just go. Good luck ever finding a job in this field again. Nathan will see to that. Then Tina turned and faced the wall. Minutes or hours later, when she turned back, he was gone. She never saw him again. Lisa was served the papers on Tuesday. She wasn't surprised to see that Nathan had been completely fair in his divorce offer. A 50-50th split, with her keeping their $1.2 million Kina house and Nathan taking most of their long-term investments. A lump sum balanced between the current value of his pension and her school district. An educational trust covered the kids' schooling and expenses. For this fairness, there was no alimony and no other contact. In return, the videos would never see the light of day. Nathan would have full custody of Sam, but she would be at college most of the year, so it was almost a moot point. A personal note from Sam, though, said she refused to be forced to spend the next 2 years of school breaks with my mom and her fuck buddy. Reading such words in her sweet daughter's handwriting was even worse than those damned videos. What had she done?